What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Triple Z Podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah Henry. The 76ers have had an unfortunate start to their 2024-2025 season. Joel Embiid has yet to play any regular season games, being out with knee soreness on the same knee he had surgery on back in February. He was also suspended for 3 games for pushing a reporter in the locker room. Now, that reporter in an article did mention Joel Embiid's late brother, who passed away in 2014, and he also mentioned Joel Embiid's son, so I can understand why Embiid retaliated the way he did, but we can't have NBA players pushing media members in the locker room, hence the 3-day suspension. Paul George suffered a bone bruise in the preseason, which led to him missing the first 5 games of the regular season. He did make his return a couple of weeks ago against the Phoenix Suns, but the 76ers did lose that game. And Tyrese Maxey, reported by Shams, will miss the next 2 weeks with a hamstring injury. This is all happening while the 76ers are multiple games below 500 and are one of the worst teams in the entire NBA. The 76ers are in shambles right now, and it probably started when Joel Embiid said, "If I had to guess, I would probably never play back-to-backs for the rest of my career." Daryl Morey also followed that up by saying, "We're going to be smart about it. Part of being smart about it is having both Paul and Joel probably not play many back-to-backs, if any." This is what the 76ers signed up for when they gave Paul George that contract in the offseason. 2 out of your 3 best players are known for their injury history. They're known for missing regular season games, and they're known for missing games in the postseason. The goal of the 76ers is to prioritize their star players' health, Joel Embiid and Paul George. And how do you do that? By keeping a close eye on how many minutes they play and how many games they play throughout a regular season. But can that potentially backfire on the 76ers to the point where they fall behind in the standings and don't get a favorable matchup when the playoffs come around? Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George haven't played a single second of basketball together. And let's say it's set in stone that Joel Embiid and Paul George won't play any back-to-backs. We're talking about 2 of your best players combining for missing at least 20 to 30 games. That doesn't seem sustainable for a team that's supposed to be contending for a championship. And if you don't have some of your best players on the court, it's going to be hard for the 76ers to get the reps in, build some chemistry, build some resilience in order to be one of the best teams in the entire league, not only in the Eastern Conference, but having a big 3 of Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George. The 76ers are expected to be one of the best teams in the NBA. They're also putting a huge burden upon Tyrese Maxey, who's just 23 years old, one of the best young stars we have in this league, won Most Improved Player last year, made his first All-Star team, signed a nice contract in the offseason. Asking a 23-year-old to carry an entire franchise by himself, because Paul George and Joel Embiid are going to miss some games. They're going to miss some games, meaning Tyrese Maxey's going to be out there by himself carrying the offensive load. That seems like a lot to place upon a 23-year-old in Tyrese Maxey. And we've seen Tyrese Maxey as the focal point. He led the league in minutes, he led the league in field goal attempts, and it resulted in the 76ers having a 1-6 record and Tyrese Maxey eventually getting injured with a hamstring and being out for the next 2 weeks. The Sixers are kind of reminding me of the Phoenix Suns from last year. I remember when Bradley Beal went there in the offseason. You had the big 3 of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, and everybody was like, all right, there's a new big 3 in town. Like, when are we going to see them on the court? But it took a while for us NBA fans to see those 3 on the court because all of them were dealing with injuries. Whether it was Devin Booker with the hamstring, Kevin Durant with the hamstring, or pulling some type of muscle. Bradley Beal went through all types of injury last season. So it took a while for us fans to see that big 3 on the court. And they had a decent season. They won 49 games. They captured the 6th seed in the Western Conference. They went against the Minnesota Timberwolves in round 1, and they got swept. And that was the end of the Phoenix Suns season right there. But for the 76ers, they can't afford to fall that low in the standings, go in round 1, and get swept. Not saying that it's going to happen how the Phoenix Suns season happened, but how it's looking right now with Paul George and Joel Embiid not playing back-to-backs. Tyrese Maxey's potentially going to be out there for a good chunk of the regular season. And now you're going to have to rely more on, Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond, Kyle Lowry. You're going to have to rely more on your role players in order to level the playing field when you're going against teams like the Boston Celtics, the Cavaliers, who else? The Indiana Pacers, the New York Knicks, other good teams in the Eastern Conference. I'm just thinking to myself, can this backfire? Because the 76ers were in the play-in last year. I understand, wanting Embiid healthy for the postseason and Paul George as well. But in the regular season, they need to build chemistry. They need to understand what works and what doesn't work. For the Phoenix Suns, having, 2 out of their 3 best players out of the lineup or one of their best players out of the lineup, it was hard for them to build some chemistry and get the reps in because they were one of the worst fourth quarter teams in the league last season. One of the worst. It hasn't happened to a team that's in sync together. For the 76ers, that could potentially be a problem. where you don't get the reps in, and it's Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid going back and forth, not really looking like a good trio on the court together. Like, for the 76ers, they gave Paul George this max contract. He's at the age of 34. By the end of it, he will be 38. The time to win is now. We don't know how much longer Joel Embiid is going to hold up. We don't know how much longer Paul George's body is going to hold up. Like, they have to win now. Like, they have to. It can't be another year where they get bounced in the first round or they make it in the second round and they get bounced. Like, we need to see something different from the 76ers. Like, this is the best team in the Joel Embiid era. The best team. You re-signed Kelly Oubre, you re-signed Kyle Lowry, you got Andre Drummond, one of the best backup centers in the league. You have one of the best wing players in Paul George. You have one of the best young stars in the league in Tyrese Maxey. And you have one of the best players, if not the best player. Some people can really make an argument that Joel Embiid is the best player. Whatever you want to say. This team is loaded. This team has some depth, but it's going to be hard for them to get on the same page. And 2 out of your 3 best players are going to miss some time in the regular season. That's just how it is. I know Nick Nurse, he dealt with Kawhi Leonard, missing sometimes and having to answer those kind of questions. Now he has to answer to, like, Joel Embiid and Paul George missing some time as well. I know he's going to be annoyed with that. I will say there is hope for the 76ers. Today is Tuesday. Joel Embiid is making his return against the New York Knicks, but he probably won't play against the Cavaliers tomorrow, Wednesday. So I don't know how that's going to work. Same with Paul George. Like, Paul George didn't play in overtime against the Charlotte Hornets because of probably minutes restriction. I'm assuming he'll play tonight against the Knicks, but probably won't play against the Cavaliers as well. So I don't know what the 76ers are going to do against the Cleveland Cavaliers. You can say the best team in the NBA. They are 12-0. They just beat the Chicago Bulls. Donovan Mitchell had a crazy 360 spin. That was ridiculous. But not having anybody out there, not even Tyrese Maxey, against the Cavaliers, you're asking for an L already. Put it in writing. They're 13-0 because the 76ers are not going to have anybody out there. If this plan of not playing Paul George and Joel Embiid in back-to-backs is, like, legitimate. They're going to play tonight against the New York Knicks, but they're not going to play Wednesday night against the Cavaliers. Put that in the lost column already for the 76ers. Another thing that Sixers can hold on to, the Eastern Conference is weak right now. I do think it's taking teams a little bit longer to get comfortable with their new players and being a new system. You got KCP with the Magic. You got Karl-Anthony Towns, who was traded to the Knicks a week before training camp. You got Josh Giddey on the Bulls. You got all these type of moving parts in the Eastern Conference. It's taken a while for Tyrese Halliburton to get his feet a little bit wet in this season. So it's taking, and the Bucks, oh man, exhausting. So it's taking some of these Eastern Conference teams to get familiar with each other, right? To look better than what they are right now. I believe let me look this up. There's like 3 teams above 500. Currently, right now, there's only 3 teams 500 and above. The Pacers are 5-5, the Boston Celtics 9-2, and the Cavaliers 12-0. The 76ers right now are 2-7, 12th seed. You got Joel Embiid coming back, which is really good. Tyrese Maxey's injury is not something where it's like he's out for like a couple of months. He's only out for a couple of weeks, so he's going to be back on the court pretty damn soon. So you have that to look forward to if you're a 76ers fan. I will say this, 76ers are going to be better than the Hawks. They're going to be better than the Pistons, the Bulls, the Hornets. I don't know about the Jimmy Butler situation. I believe he's out for a couple of weeks. Brooklyn sooner or later is going to make some trades at the deadline if they want to get their hands in that Cooper Flag sweepstakes. I don't know what they're doing at the 5th seed right now. I don't know what they're doing. The 76ers have a little bit of wiggle room right now. But sooner or later, these teams are going to start to figure it out. No team has even played above, 15 games. I think we really start to get a better sample size when it's around 20, 25 games, 30 games. So let's see how the 76ers play out for, the rest of the season. What's their schedule looking like? It's a little challenging, I would say. You got the Knicks, you got the Cavs, you got Orlando, Miami, and Memphis. That's a challenging, 5-game schedule right there. If they can go on a 5-game winning streak and, have a record of 7-7 and then finally be above 500, then it's like, all right, cool. But in that stretch, if they go 2-3, 1-4, I mean, you're just digging a bigger hole for yourself if you're Philadelphia right now. It's not going to get easier. The schedule is not going to get easier. The season is going to get longer. but maybe that works in both ways where it gets longer and you get better as a team, or it gets longer and it gets more dreadful as a team. We're going to see what Philadelphia does in the next couple of weeks. Thank you guys for listening to Triple Z Podcast. Please like, subscribe to the channel. How do you think Joel Embiid will do in his debut against the New York Knicks? And I'll see you guys next time. Zzz.